So good morning. So we can start on the weighted average cost of capital. So you can let your colleagues know whether the class has started. You can see only 2 people in class. So let us now go to the weighted average cost of capital. We can now go to the weighted average cost of capital. We should now be able to go to the weighted average cost of capital. So we can write that it is the overall cost of capital of the company. It is the overall cost of capital of the company. It is the overall cost of capital of the company, which is equivalent to average cost of all the funds, which is equivalent to average cost of all the funds employed by the company. The average cost of all the funds employed by the company. It is more relevant in the decision making. It is more relevant in the decision making than the component cost of capital. It is more relevant in the decision making than the component cost of capital because it is used as follows. Because it is used as follows. We write that it is the historical cost of capital. So we write that it is the historical cost of capital, the historical cost of capital, which is used in evaluating the company's existing projects. Which is used in evaluating the company's existing projects, which is used in evaluating the company's existing projects. The number 2 is that, or B, it is used to determine the cost of borrowing. It is used to determine the cost of borrowing. It is used to determine the cost of borrowing. The number 3 or C is that it reflects the general risk level of the company. It reflects the general risk level of the company. It reflects the general risk level of the company. The next one is that it can be used for comparison with other similar companies. It can be used for comparison with the other similar companies. It can be used for comparison with the other similar companies in the industry. In the industry to determine the overall performance of the company. In the industry to determine the overall performance of the company. In the industry to determine the overall performance of the company. Then another paragraph, you summarize that there are normally 3 values which can be used. There are normally 3 values which can be used to determine the proportion or the weight. To determine the proportion or the weight. To determine the proportion or the weight of each security in the capital structure, to determine the proportion or the weight of each security in the capital structure. In the capital structure, they include a book value. So A will be the book value. A is meant to be the book value. So under the book value, we write that are values which reflect are values which reflects the value of capital when it was acquired in the past. They are values which reflects the value of capital when it was acquired in the past. When it was acquired in the past. They are therefore historical values. They are therefore historical values which do not reflect the current conditions, current conditions under which new funds are raised, which do not reflect the current conditions under which new funds are raised. The new funds are raised. Hence, these values are not used. Hence, these values are not used. Hence, these values are not used. These values are not used, even though they are readily available in the financial statement. These values are not used, even though they are readily available in the financial statements. They are readily available in the financial statements. So B is the target or the replacement value. So B is meant to be the target or the replacement value. So B is the target or the replacement value. So under the target or replacement value, we summarize that these are the projected market price of the security. These are the projected market price of the security. They are the projected market price of the security. They are not popular. They are not popular because it is difficult to project. They are not popular because it is difficult to project. It is difficult to project the future value. It is difficult to project the future value of the security. It is difficult to project the future value of the security since the factors influencing the value of the security, since the factors influencing the value of the security, since the factors influencing the value of the security keeps on changing over time. They keep on changing over time. It keeps on changing over time. Then C will be the market values. C will now be the market values. So C will be the market values. So under the market values, we also note that they are the most popular values used. They are the most popular values used in computing WSEC. They are the most popular values used in computing the WSEC since they reflect the current market conditions, since they reflect the current market conditions under which new finances may be raised. They reflect the current market conditions under which new finances may be raised, under which the new finances may be raised. When these values are used, comma, the cost of the retained earnings, when these values are used, comma, the cost of the retained earnings, the cost of the retained earnings is ignored. The cost of the retained earnings is ignored since it is already included in the market value of the ordinary shares. Is ignored since it is already included in the market value of the ordinary shares. It is ignored because it is already included in the market value of the ordinary shares. So we can go through some questions in relation to that. So one of the questions we can go through should be the one for August 2022. August 2022. There is a question for August 2022. That will be the question number 1, part C. We can go through the question for August 2022. There is a question number 1, part C. So August 2022, there is a question number 1, part C. So that question 1, part C, it reads that the following information relates to the capital structure of Tamu Centers Limited for the year ended 31st December 2021. They gave you the capital sources and current market value. There is the corporate bond, there is ordinary shares, there is also the preference shares. So additional information, note number 1, the corporate bond has 1,000 face value and it pays interest at a rate of 11% annually and will mature in 10 years time. The bond is currently trading. The bond is currently trading at shillings 11.25 at the securities market, and its yield to maturity is given as 9.05. Then they also gave you that the ordinary shares paid a dividend of 1.8 last year, and the earnings, each share is selling at 27.50 at the securities market. The farm dividend on the ordinary shares is expected to grow at a rate of 7% per annum to perpetuity. Note number 3, the farm's preference shares pays 9% dividend on a shillings 100 per value. The corporate tax rate is 30%. So now required from letter 1, weighted average cost of capital of the farm. So let us start by first computing the cost of the ordinary share. You start off by calculating. First, you get the cost of the ordinary share. Cost of the ordinary share. So ordinary share is within the cost of the, it has a constant dividend growth rate. KE is DO 1 plus G divided by PO, we minus the flotation cost. Then you add G. So you go to the note number 2. Ordinary shares paid a dividend of 1.80 last year. So last year they paid a dividend of 1.8 like that. It is 1.8. Then it is growing at 7%. 7% is the same as 0.07. So PO is the current market price. Still in that note number 2, they gave you 27.50. 27.50. The question did not provide for the flotation cost. Then you also add 0.07. So that figure, express it as a percentage. So calculate, you give me the value and convert it into a percentage. Convert it into a percentage. Convert it into a percentage. When you express it as a percentage, it is giving you which percent? So you compute, you give me the value, so that we move a little bit faster. Anyone who has calculated? So I can see 14%. I'm able to see 14%. I can see the value of 14%. Then We shall also be required to compute cost of the preference share. We shall also be required to calculate the cost of the preference share. Cost of the preference share is KB. It is dividend PO minus the flotation cost. We express it as a percentage. So when it comes to the preference shares, you got the note number 3. The firm's preference shares pays a 9% dividend. So first you compute the dividend. First you calculate the dividend. It is 9% of 100. It is 9% of 100, which is going to be 9 like that. So it will be 9 divided by PO. PO is the current market price per share. But now the question did not give us the current market price per share. We assume that that preference share was issued at par. So we still divide by 100, but because there was no flotation cost, when you express it as a percentage, it will still remain 9%. It will still remain 9% because the question did not give you the new market value under which it should be issued. So they don't give you the new market value. We normally assume it was issued at par. So finally, we also compute the cost of the bond. We should also be able to calculate the cost of the bond. So that bond is redeemable. Now also calculate the cost of the bond. And the bond is redeemable. We want to get the cost of the bond. So that bond is redeemable. So we go to see where we compute cost of the bond. So that bond is redeemable. So if it is redeemable, cost of the bond is KD, which will be the same as yield to maturity, which is the same as the yield to maturity, which will be given by interest 1 minus the corporate tax. Then we add maturity value minus the current value. Then we also divide by the maturity value plus the current value multiplied by 1/2. Then you express it as a percentage. So first you calculate the interest in the note number 1. The interest rate is 11%. So you get 11%. So interest gets 11% of the 1,000. It's supposed to be below 110. That is now for the interest. Then apart from that amount of the interest, we also need to get the maturity value. So the maturity value is different. The maturity value is somehow different from the par value. So to get the maturity value, the question had said that it was redeemed. So it is yield to maturity was 9.05. So get 109.05%. 0.05% of the par value, which is 1,000, because it was redeemed with the yield to maturity of 9.05%. So 109.05% of 1,000, it should be able to give you around 1090.5. Be able to give you 1090.5. Then apart from that, we also need to get the current value. The current value was given. The current value was given to you. When you check, it is 1125. 1125. Then T was given. T, the time. It mature after 10 years, like that. The tax rate was given as 30%. So using that information, Using that information, we can now be able to compute what is supposed to be the yield to maturity. So you take that value of the interest, which is 110, and 90.5, you subtract 11.25. Then express it as a percentage. So compute that value and see it should give us a figure. So I can see a figure of 6.64. You can see a figure of 6.64. So after that, I would also like you to add the total. You can see in the question, there is a place they have given you capital source. So I want you to add that total for the current market value. I would like you to add the total for that current market value for me. So add them together, you give me the figure. So add those total, the current market value for me. Give me the total value for that. So that we use it now to get the WACC. So that we use it now to compute what is meant to be the WACC. So that we use it to get the WACC. So I've seen 43,300. So we start with the ordinary shares. Ordinary share is 26,170. Divide by the total, which is 43,300. 43,300 multiplied by 14. The cost for the ordinary share, we got 14. We got the preference shares, which is 7203 Also divide by 43,300. Also multiplied by, this one remains 9%. Then finally the bond. The bond is 11,927. We also divide by 43,300. So this one you multiplied by 6.64. 6.64. So add them together, they will be able to give you the WSEC. So what should be the final value? So what should be the final value? The WSEC. So 12.27. Is it 12? Sorry, 11.27. I've seen 11.30. So we also go to April 2022. Go to April 2022, question number 3, part C. So also go to April 2022, question number 3, part C. Check April 2022, question number 3, part C. So check April 2022, question number 3, part C. So April 2022, question 3, part C. If you go to that question 3, part C, it reads that the following financial information the following financial information relates to Panda Limited. It relates to Panda Limited. So statement of the financial position extract as at 31st December 2021. So equity was given. They also gave you the ordinary shares of Shillings 5 per value. They also gave you the reserves. Long-term liability is given, where you are given 4% preference shares, 7% 6 years redeemable bond, and also the long-term bank loan is also given. So additional information, note number 1, ordinary shares of Panda Limited have an ex-dividend market value of 47 per share, and an ordinary dividend of 3.63 per share has just been paid. Historical data, historical dividend payments have been as follows. So they gave you the year 2018, 2019, 2020, up to 2021. They also gave you the dividend per share. So note number 2, preference shares of Panda Limited are not redeemed and have an ex-dividend market value of 4 shillings per share. Note number 3, 7% bonds are redeemable at 5% premium to their nominal value of 100 shillings per bond and have an ex-interest market value of Shillings 104.5 per bond. Note number 4, the bank loan has a variable interest rate that has averaged 4% per year in the recent years. The corporate tax rate applicable to Panda Limited is 30% per year. So required market value weighted average cost of capital for Panda Limited. So we need now to see how
John.
Sorry?
Ivy.
So we can now go to how to calculate the weighted average cost of capital. So to compute now the weighted average cost of capital, we need to start with the cost of the ordinary share, but the growth rate was not given. To get the growth rate, you will use the additional information, note number 1. We use the additional information, note number 1. You use the compounding method. You will apply the compounding method to get that constant growth rate. You will use the compounding method to get that constant growth rate. You use the compounding method to get that constant growth rate. So under the compounding method, remember G is given by N. So dN divided by dO, then we subtract 1 like that. So you label them whereby 2018 will be dO, 2019 will be D1, D2, and D3. So N will be 3. So G should be equal to 3. So D3 divided by dO with minus 1 like that. So G will be 3. So D3 is given. The dividend per share in the year 2021, it is 3.50. 3.50. So DO is also given in the year 2018. It is 3.09. So calculate that figure, you give me that growth rate. So compute for me that value of the constant growth rate. So convert it into a percentage multiplied by 100. You get 4.24. It should be around 4.24. So convert it into a percentage, it will give you 4.24. So once you get that growth rate, you now compute. Once you get the growth rate, you now be required to compute what is supposed to be. Once you get that value, you should now be able to compute what is supposed to be the cost of the ordinary share. We now calculate of the share. So KE should be given by DO 1 plus G divided by PO minus the flotation cost. Then we add G. So now our DO, if you recall what we used to do, this now will be the year 2021. So our DO is the last dividend that was paid. That dividend that was last paid, it is meant to be the one for 2021. So they had given me something up there as 3.63, but I'm not using that one because I use as per the pattern that we have used to get G. The pattern as what we have used to get G, it is 3.50. So 1 plus 0.0. 424 divide by PO. PO is the price per share in the note number 1, which is 47. The question will not give you the flotation cost. Then express it as a percentage. So what should be the cost for the ordinary share? Also convert it into a percentage. So you get 12%. So after that, you should also compute the cost of the preference share. You should also be able to calculate the cost of the preference share. You also need to compute the cost of the preference share. So to calculate the cost of the preference share is the same as A, B. So to get the dividend, it should be able to be given as per 4% of the bar value under the long-term liabilities. So it should be what figure? 4% of 10 is the same as what? 0.4. So now you come here, you get KB It should be 0.4 divided by PO. 0.4 divided by PO. So in the note number 2, they had given you the market value of the share preferred. It is given as 4. So there is no flotation cost. So also express it as a percentage. So it is giving you 10%. The next one, you compute the cost of the bond. The next one, you calculate the cost of the bond. So that bond is redeemable. The bond is redeemable because it has a maturity value. Now also the cost of the bond. Now also get the cost of the bond. So cost of the bond is the same as KD. It is the same as the yield to maturity. Whereby you get interest, then we add maturity value minus the current value. You also divide maturity value plus the current value. Then a half. Then we express it as a percentage. So you start by computing interest. So interest rate is 7%. When you check in that note number 3, the nominal value is the same as the bar value. So interest, you simply take what is there as 5%. So not 5%, but 7%. Which is supposed to be 7. Then maturity value. Maturity value has been given because it was redeemed at a premium of 5%. So get 105% of 100. That will be the same as 105. Then the current value for the debenture was given. They gave you a figure of 104.5. 104.5. Then you are also given N. N is the maturity period. N is the maturity. So they gave you 6 years. So N has been given as 6 years. Then the corporate tax rate was 30%. The tax is 13%. So from there you can get your yield to maturity. So interest will be 7. So express that figure as a percentage. From here to then you express it as a percentage. So now from there was also a bank loan. In that question, there was also the bank loan. You should also calculate the cost of the bank loan. You should also be able to compute the cost of the bank loan. You should also be able to calculate the cost of the bank loan. So cost of the bank loan is the same as KT. So this one, you simply take the interest, then you tax it. You simply take the interest. When you got the note number 4, the bank loan has a variable interest rate that has averaged 4%. So you get 4%, 1 minus 0.3. So we tax that figure. You just take the interest rate, then you tax it. You simply take the interest rate, and then you tax the value. So that should give us what percent? So let us now get the total market value. We now come up with the total market value so that we get the WSCC. So you should come up with the total market value so that we compute the WSCC. So this now how to get the total market value. Total market value. So we get the total market value to calculate the WSCC. So that total market value, we start off with ordinary shares. We start off with the ordinary shares. So for the ordinary shares, take the 16 millions. You take the 16 millions, divide by the bar value, which is 5, multiplied by the current market price, which was 47. So give me that figure when you compute. 16 divided by 2 multiplied by 47 should give us around which figure? $150.4 millions. 150.4 millions. The next one should be the preference shares. The next one should be the preference shares. So for the preference shares, take 12 millions, divide by the bar value, which is 10, then multiplied by what is there in the note number 4 as 4 shillings. So when you take 12 million divided by 10, multiplied by 4, it will give you which figure? It is 4.8. Also go to what is supposed to be the bond. We also check the one for the bond. So for the bond, it is also 12 million. the bar value was 100, but they are currently selling at 104.50. 104.5. So what value does it give you? $12.54. Then the last one is the bank loan. So that one will just remain the book value. The bank loan will not change. So get the total for me. Get that total for me. So get that total for me. So 171.74. So cost of the ordinary share, was it 12? If it's different, you let me know. For the preference share, it is 4.8 million. So preference share, it was 10. $4.76. So this one was 2.8. So combine them and get the value. So what should be our WSEC? So I've seen 11.2. So it is a percentage, not millions, just 11.2%. Because the figures we calculated, they were percentages. So we can now check the one for November 2020, question number 3, part B. Let us check the one for November 2020, question number 3, part B. November 2020, question number 3, part B. So go to November 2020, question number 3, part B. November 2020, question number 3, part B. So when you check through November 2020, question number 3, part B, November 2020, question number 3, part B. So that question reads that the following information was extracted from the books of Toming General Merchandise Limited. Statement of the financial position as at 31st December 2019. So the question had given you non-current assets, investment, current assets, less current liabilities. Then you are also given the total assets, then financed by. So under the financed by, So they had given you about financed by, where ordinary share capital, they gave you 3 million shares each at 1 shillings each. General reserves is given. Shareholders funds was also given. Then 7% bond, corporate taxation, total equity and liabilities. So they have also given you the summary of the profit and the dividends. So they gave you 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. So where they provided more details that the current on 1st of January 2022, market value for the ordinary share is 3 per share ex-dividend. Then bonds are redeemable at par in 10 years' time. Current market value of the bond is 77.10. Then 100 nominal value, and annual interest has just been paid on the bond. There have been no issue on redemption of or ordinary shares or bonds during the past 5 years. So the corporate tax rate is 30%. So assume that there have been no changes in the corporate tax rate for the past 5 years. So required WSEC that the company should use as the discount rate when appraising the new investment. So you just follow the same procedure. The first thing for you is to compute the cost of the ordinary share, and the cost of the ordinary share requires the growth rate. So we require the cost of the ordinary share, which requires the growth rate. So growth rate, the question up there, they gave you the number of the ordinary shares as financed by, you can see the 3 million ordinary shares. But now, when it comes to the summary, they have given you 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. So 2015, you name it as D0, D1, D2, D3, D4, like that. So that means that our G, should be given by, so to calculate your G, it is supposed to be the constant growth rate. So to get our G, so our G should be given by 4. So D4 divided by DO minus 1. But our D4 is the dividend. D4 is dividend per share in the year 2019. So you simply go to less dividend. So dividend for the year 2019, you can see the value of 810. There are 3 zeros at the top. But the number of the ordinary shares are 3 million shares. The number of the ordinary shares are 3 million shares. So when you divide by 3 million shares, you should get the dividend per share in the year 2019. Also require DO. DO is the dividend per share in the year 2015. So this one will also be required to take 620,000. Also divide by 3 million ordinary shares. So what should be the dividend per share for 2019? To give me those figures. The number of the ordinary share were given under finance by ordinary share capital 3 million shares at shillings 1 each. So this one is 0.27. 0.27. How about dividend per share in the year 2015? 2015 is which value? $0.21. So now we can get G. So what should be G? What should be that constant growth rate? So that we now compute the cost of the ordinary share. So that we now calculate the cost of the ordinary share. So cost of the ordinary share is KE so our DO is 2019. This one is now 2019. So it is 0.27. So I've been given a growth rate of 6.48. I hope everyone else is getting 6.48. Are we all getting 6.48? So that will be the same as 0.0648. So PO was given. PO had been given. So the question had given you the current market price, which is there in the note number 1 as 3. Then express it as a percentage. So that is now the cost for the ordinary share. Then also compute the cost of. So this question had no preference shares. This question had no preference shares. So the next item we should calculate is the cost of the bond. This question had no preference shares. So the next item we should compute should now be the cost of the bond. So we need to come up with the cost of the bond. So that bond is redeemable. The bond is redeemable. So we get the yield to maturity, because as per the information given to you in the note number 2, bonds are redeemable at par in 10 years time. So the bond cost of the bond, so it is redeemable. That means you compute KD, which is the same as yields to maturity. So it will be given by interest 1 minus the corporate tax, maturity value minus the current value. So interest is computed on the bar value. When you go through the question, there was 7% bond, 7% bond. So the interest rate is 7%. In the note number 3, they had said that it currently sells at 77.10 per shillings 100 nominal value. So interest gets 7% of 100. Interest will be 7% of 100. So that should be 7. So maturity value is given as 77. maturity value is the same as the nominal value, 100. But current value is what is given as 77.10, like that. Then they are also able to give you N is supposed to be equal to 10 years. Then the corporate tax rate is 30%. So KD, which is the same as the yield to maturity. So interest you take 7, 1 minus 0.3. So maturity value is 100. So N is 10 years. So express that as a percentage. So once you have done that, we should now get the total market value. We should now come up with the total market value, so that we get the WACC. Should now come up with total market value. So total market value, start with the ordinary shares. Start off with the ordinary shares. Where it is 3 millions. Number of the ordinary shares are 3 million. The market price per share was 3 shillings, which was given in the note number 1. So they should be able to give us 9 millions. So you go to the bond. So the number of the bonds, what you do, the 7% bond was worth 1.3 millions. 1.3 millions divided by 100, the current market value is 77.1, sorry. When you omit 0.1, confirm that part. When you are calculating, remember to include 7.1, 77.1. I did not include, I just gave you 77. So if you factor in 77.1, so what should be the value? So I suspect this one should give us 1 million. So when you add, they should be able to. So confirm whether those figures of mine are correct. When you take 1.3 divided by 100, multiply by 77.1, is it 1 million? Yeah. So now from there, we get the WACC. We get the WACC, where you take 9 millions divided by 10 millions. 9 million divided by. So what is there as the cost? of the ordinary share. Cost of the ordinary share, we got which percent? What was there as the cost of the ordinary share? It was 16 point what? Cost of the ordinary share. Was it 16 or 14? Others, you got which value? Cost of the ordinary share. So 14.89. Then this one is 1 million over 10 million. So what are we getting as the cost of the debenture or the bond? Cost of the debenture or the bond, we got which figure? So now you combine them together to give you the WSC. $8.1, so maybe you can have it as 8.12. So get your WSC in relation to that portion of the question. So that should be the last question I want us to do on that part. So when we meet, we shall start on the weighted marginal cost of capital. The weighted marginal cost of capital. So that is now our next item. So we cannot do it now. So when we meet, we shall now start on the weighted marginal cost of capital. So I had sent some notes about the ratios. Mliona hizo notes the ratios. Are you able to see the notes for the ratios? Yeah, go through them. I've even given you some solutions at the back. I've given you some solutions at the back. Then, once you go through them, I would like you to check the question. You will attempt the question for April 2022, question number 5, part C. Once you go through that handout for the ratios, make sure that you have gone through the question for April 2022. There is a question number 5, part C. But I will create time, I go through it together with you, but make sure that you have read. Then I've given you several solutions on that handout of the ratio analysis. So make sure you go through that handout for the ratio. So once I finish this part, I will now go to the capital budgeting, which will be able to take us the very shortest time possible, so that by the end of next week, we shall have finished, so that you revise on your own. So we can stop there for today.